before humans conquered the frozen lands of the north, before science understood life in the merciless cold, there already existed a world where every day was a test of survival. Amid snowy forests, icy mountains, and the cold seas of Alaska, creatures must battle snowstorms, hunger, and predators silently lurking in the shadows. Welcome to frozen Alaska, surviving the most extreme cold on the planet. Please give us a like and subscribe to the channel to give us more motivation to keep creating quality content. Don't forget to comment below and tell us what you thought of the video, and let us know where you're watching from so we can discuss it together. Let's begin. When winter lays siege to Alaska, the land transforms into a strange and hostile place. Temperatures drop so low that breath crystallizes instantly in the air. The sun, if it appears at all, only floats low on the horizon like a faint and distant mercury of warmth, casting long bluish shadows over an infinite white. This is more than cold. It is a season that tests every living being to its most extreme limits. The snow does not just fall. It attacks with the fury of Arctic winds that can reach hurricane force. It sculpts the landscape into fantastic mounds and creates whiteout blizzard conditions that can disorient even the most experienced wildlife. In this crystallized desert, predators become more desperate, more cunning, and relentless. The balance between hunter and prey shifts abruptly as prey struggle to find food under layers of snow that can exceed 6 meters in thickness. Every calorie burned in the search for sustenance is a gamble against death itself. Here, in this land of extremes, winter is not just a season, but a tireless judge that examines every adaptation, every instinct, and every will to exist. Those who pass the test earn a place among nature's most extraordinary survivors. The polar bear emerges from its den like a ghost. Its massive body shifts with surprising grace over the frozen landscape. This apex predator, which can weigh up to 650 kilograms, has spent the first months of winter in a state of lethargy, but remaining in motion. It subsists thanks to fat reserves accumulated during the previous year's hunting season. Now, with her cubs at her side, a mother faces the greatest challenge of her life. She stands motionless at the edge of an ice floe. Her black nose tracks the air for the scent that is synonymous with life, the seal. Her hearing, 14 times more sensitive than a human's, can detect the breathing of a seal through a meter of solid ice. Every fiber of her body is concentrated on this moment, an opportunity that might not repeat itself for days. Beneath the ice, a ringed seal rests in its breathing hole, unaware of the death lurking above. The patience of the mother bear is legendary. She will wait for hours, as still as a statue, until the perfect moment to strike. When that instant arrives, her colossal claws break the ice with the force of a sledgehammer, dragging the prey to the surface in one explosive movement. Her cubs watch and learn, absorbing the lessons that will decide if they live through their first winter. They still depend on mother's milk, but they must begin to understand the brutal calculus of Arctic survival. Every successful hunt by their mother will decide not only their immediate subsistence, but their ability to learn necessary skills. The polar bear's adaptations are near miraculous. Its fur appears white, but is actually transparent, acting as optical fibers that conduct ultraviolet light toward its black underlying skin. Its giant paws, up to 30 centimeters wide, function as snowshoes and as oars, allowing it to move over ice and in water with equal efficiency. The thick layer of accumulated fat insulates it from lethal cold. However, even this perfectly adapted predator faces unprecedented challenges. The ice on which it depends is increasingly unreliable, forming later and breaking up earlier each year. The longer swimming distances between flows test even its amazing endurance. The foundations of its existence tremble beneath its own colossal claws. As the polar bear disappears into the swirling snow, another drama unfolds in the depths of the Alaskan boreal forest. Here, where firs and spruces form a natural barrier against Arctic winds, the woodland caribou moves like a phantom. This is not the massive migration most associated with caribou. These are forest dwellers, small herds that have adapted to life among trees instead of the open tundra. Their hooves, wide and concave, act as natural snowshoes, allowing them to walk on layers of snow that would trap other animals. The clicking sound they produce with every step functions as a communication system. It helps herd members maintain contact, even in the worst storms. A male scrapes at the snow with his hooves, searching for lichen and frozen grass that will keep him alive. His antlers, shed just a few weeks ago, give him a strangely fragile appearance, but he no longer spends energy on displays of dominance. Now, survival is his sole concern. His breath creates great clouds of vapor in the 40-degree below zero air as he moves methodically along his feeding route. Every movement is calculated to conserve energy. Unlike their tundra relatives who migrate hundreds of kilometers to escape the extreme weather, the woodland caribou has learned to adapt to winter instead of fleeing from it. The herd advances through the forest in single file. Each individual steps exactly in the footprint of the one before. This behavior known as cratering, creates an efficient path through deep snow and helps the herd save valuable calories. The leader changes frequently, sharing the exhausting task of breaking the trail. Wolves prowl at the limits of their perception. These intelligent predators understand that winter weakens even the strongest caribou. The eternal dance between predator and prey becomes more tense, as every mistake means death, not just for that individual, but possibly for the offspring that will not be born if their parents do not survive until spring. The caribou's winter coat is a marvel of natural engineering. The layer of hollow guard hair traps warm air near the skin, while a dense layer of underfur provides additional insulation. Their nostrils are uniquely structured to warm incoming air before it reaches the lungs. Thus, they prevent tissue damage from breathing air so cold it could freeze exposed skin in minutes. When darkness envelops the forest with the weight of a heavy blanket, the caribou herd lies down in sheltered areas among the trees. They wake every few hours to feed. They follow an ancient rhythm that maximizes opportunities to find food while minimizing exposure to predators and the lethal cold. While the herd of woodland caribou moves silently among the snow-covered spruces, there are other eyes watching them from a distance, not from above like the snowy owl. Not from the edge of the ice like the polar bear, but from the very shadows between the trees, where silver-grey bodies almost blend with the snow, the rock, and the cold blue light of the Alaskan winter. They are the Alaskan grey wolves, the predatory ghosts of the north. They do not need to roar to dominate this land. They dominate through patience, memory, and near-perfect coordination. A lone wolf is already a fearsome predator, but a pack represents the true force of wild nature. In Alaska, a pack usually has 6 or 7 members, but it can be larger if food is abundant. Each pack is a family, a hunting unit, a survival network bound by howls, scents, and subtle body signals. Across the snow, their tracks stretch in a near-perfect line. Each individual steps in the track of the one before, saving energy in a world where every step consumes precious calories. They can travel dozens of kilometers in a day, crossing the taiga, frozen valleys, snowy riverbeds, and exposed slopes in search of prey. For them, Alaska is not a vast and infinite land. It is a living map, memorized through the scent of caribou, the tracks of moose, the faint sound of a straggling calf, and the wind direction carrying information about life or death. target is rarely the strongest. Wolves do not hunt with brute force alone. They hunt through trial and error. A pack can closely follow a group of caribou for hours, even days, without rushing the attack. They observe how the group moves, identifying who walks slower, who is injured, who is young, or who is old. In this unforgiving world, the smallest weakness can become the signal that the predator interprets. When the hunt begins on the tundra, it is not always a short, explosive race. It is a calculated pursuit. Some wolves separate the prey from the main group. Others run in parallel, pushing it toward areas of deep snow, slippery riverbanks, or rugged terrain where the prey's speed is reduced. If the prey is too strong, the pack may desist, disappearing into the forest as if they had never existed. But if the prey begins to slow down, if its breathing is heavy, if its steps sink deeper into the snow, the circle closes. One wolf strikes from the flank. Another cuts the path ahead. A third presses from behind, forcing the prey to constantly change direction. In that instant, the hunt is no longer a matter of speed, but of exhaustion. In the land where winter can seem eternal, the winner is not always the strongest, but the one who can endure the longest. However, the life of the grey wolf is not simple either. A failed hunt can mean the entire pack loses a vital energy source. A caribou kick, moose hooves, or a crash on the ice can turn a predator into a straggler. In winter, when food is scarce and temperatures drop to lethal levels, even apex predators live on the fragile border between strength and starvation. There are days when they catch nothing. There are nights when the howls do not sound like a declaration of victory, but like a signal to maintain contact between members who have scattered seeking trails. The wolf's howl echoes in frozen valleys, bounces off snowy slopes, and blends with the aurora-filled sky. For a human, it may be the sound of untamed nature. But for the wolf, it is language. It helps members reunite, warns other packs to stay away from their territory, and reinforces bonds within the family. The wolf's role in the Alaskan ecosystem goes far beyond the image of a fearsome hunter. It is a force of natural selection. By hunting the weak, old, sick, or young individuals, they contribute to maintaining the health of prey populations. Their presence changes how caribou, moose, and Dall sheep move, feed, and choose their shelters. When a wolf appears in a valley, the prey cannot remain too long in one place. This allows vegetation time to recover, creating space for birds, rodents, and insects to thrive. However, like many other large predators, the Alaskan grey wolf also finds itself in the midst of human controversy. For some communities, they are the symbol of the wild and ecological balance. As deep night falls, the pack disappears once more among the dark trunks. They leave nothing but thin tracks in the snow and a howl that fades into the cold wind. In a place where life is always paid for with alertness, speed, and instinct, the grey wolf is not just a predator, it is the silent soul of wild Alaska. And in the north, where winter can crush any mistake, those grey ghosts continue their path, slowly, with perseverance, and never truly disappearing. The night belongs now to other hunters. High in the forest canopy, where the aurora borealis creates a dome of ever-changing colored light, the snowy owl begins its patrol. This magnificent bird, with its sharp golden eyes and a wingspan of nearly 1.5 meters, has moved south from the far Arctic when prey becomes scarce in its usual hunting grounds. The owl remains motionless atop a dead fir. Its white plumage makes it nearly invisible among the snow-covered branches. Unlike most owls, which hunt primarily by sound, the snowy owl relies heavily on its exceptional vision. Its yellow eyes can detect the movement of a lemming under the snow from a distance of over 800 meters. Beneath the layer of snow, an entire ecosystem remains active. Mice, voles, and lemmings move through tunnels in the lower layer of the snow. This hidden world is the owl's hunting ground. Having learned to decipher the subtle signals that reveal the location of its prey, a tiny, almost imperceptible movement catches its attention. The owl's head turns with mechanical precision. Its facial disc concentrates sound waves like a natural radar. It launches from its perch in absolute silence. Its feathers, with a special structure, emit no sound as they cut through the air. Its talons, powerful enough to crush the skull of a hare, pierce through the snow with surgical precision. The hunt ends in a matter of seconds, but locating the prey may have required hours of patient observation. This is the reality of winter predation in Alaska. Long periods of waiting interrupted by moments of explosive action. Success in the snowy owl's hunt directly affects its breeding plans for the following year. In years of abundance, it can lay up to 11 eggs. In years of scarcity, it may not reproduce at all. This remarkable ability to adjust its reproductive output based on available resources is one of the key adaptations that allow its species to thrive in such an unpredictable environment. Its presence here is both a blessing and a warning. Snowy owls only appear in southern Alaska when their primary prey in the high Arctic suffers a severe decline. Their arrival indicates a disturbance in the far north, but their hunting prowess helps control rodent populations, which might otherwise explode numerically. As the owl returns to its perch with prey in its talons, it integrates into the complex web of relationships that defines winter survival in Alaska. Every successful hunt, every failed attempt, and every adaptation to extreme conditions contributes to the great drama of life that persists in one of the most challenging environments on Earth. From a winter den on a high mountain slope, a grizzly mother emerges. She squints against the blinding light of the spring sun. She has not eaten in 7 months, subsisting entirely on her fat reserves. During this time, she has nursed her 2 cubs, born in the darkest days of winter. Her body weight has been reduced by nearly 40%. Now she must mobilize the energy necessary to lead her children into a world full of lethal challenges. The cubs, born blind and helpless only 4 months ago, now scramble and play around their mother's massive body. Each weighs barely 9 kilograms. These small balls of fur and energy are completely unaware of the dangers surrounding them. Their mother's vigilance will decide if they reach their first birthday. The bear descends the slope carefully, clinging to rocks with her enormous claws. The gravel is slippery from the snowmelt. Every few steps, she stops to scan the landscape. Her alert sense of smell searches for scents that might indicate an opportunity or a danger. Her hearing is sensitive enough to detect the footsteps of another bear a mile away. She processes the complex symphony of sounds filling the spring air. At the foot of the slope runs a stream swollen by the thaw. The water is brown with mud and sediment. There, she will teach her cubs one of the first vital lessons, how to fish. But first, she must feed herself. The sedges growing on the banks are the first fresh plant food she has tasted in months. Her digestive system, dormant during the winter, slowly begins to restart. The cubs observe their mother's every move. They instinctively understand that their survival depends on learning from her example. As she shows them how to flip stones to find insects and larvae, they try to imitate her actions with their small paws. But spring in Alaska brings dangers that go far beyond the simple challenge of finding food. Male grizzly bears, emerging from their winter shelters, represent a lethal threat to the cubs. These colossal animals do not see the cubs as members of their own species. They see them as obstacles preventing mating with the mother. The mother bear must navigate a complex social environment where an ill-timed encounter can mean the death of her offspring. Therefore, she leads her cubs toward higher ground. She moves them away from the valley floors where larger bears usually travel. Her movements are purposeful but cautious. Every decision is based on the need to find food while maintaining the safety of her litter. The abundance of spring comes at a price: increased competition. There is greater aggression from other bears, also desperately seeking to recover from winter. When the bear family moves through a meadow, their presence causes a chain reaction. Ground squirrels dive into their burrows, and their alarm calls warn other small mammals. Birds abandon their foraging to harass the bears from a safe distance. Their hoarse croaks add to the noisy chorus of spring. However, despite being a danger to smaller beings, the mother bear fulfills an essential ecological function. Her massive paws and powerful claws churn the earth as she digs for roots and rodents. This process facilitates plant growth. Her droppings deposit nutrients into the landscape, fertilizing the very meadows she traverses. The salmon she will catch at the end of the season will transport marine nutrients inland. This process enriches the forest ecosystem kilometers away from the nearest stream. The cubs become stronger and more coordinated each day. Their initial vulnerability gives way to the confidence and strength that will turn them into apex predators. Nonetheless, for now, they remain entirely dependent on the wisdom and protection of their mother. They live in a world where beauty and danger coexist in every shadow and at every bend in the road. While the grizzly bear family deals with the complexity of spring survival in the mountains, another drama unfolds on Alaska's rugged coasts. Here, where the Pacific Ocean meets the continent with thundering force, stellar sea lions arrive at traditional rookeries their species has used for thousands of years. A giant male weighing nearly a ton glides from the violent waves onto a rocky ledge with surprising grace. His massive body, which would be clumsy on land, moves with agility in the water, propelled by powerful front flippers that act as oars and wings in the marine environment. Water drains from his thick fur as he positions himself among hundreds of other sea lions congregated for the most important event of their annual cycle, the breeding season. This is a gathering unparalleled in the natural world. The din is overwhelming, an uninterrupted series of barks, roars, and bellows that can be heard kilometers away. The scent is equally intense, a mix of salty air, fish, and the musky smell of hundreds of large mammals crowded into a relatively small space. The visual spectacle is astonishing. Colossal males of up to 1,000 kilograms share the space with slender females and playful pups. All this happens against a backdrop of crashing waves and majestic sea cliffs. The appearance of the dominant male marks the start of a complex social ritual that will decide his reproductive success for the year. He must establish and defend a territory against other males while attracting females to his chosen spot. Combats between rival males are spectacular displays of strength and determination. Alpha males rear up on their hind flippers and lunge at each other with devastating force. His territory, a block of rock barely 9 square meters, becomes his entire world for the following weeks. He cannot leave to hunt or venture into cool waters, even when the spring sun beats hard against his dark fur. He must survive on fat reserves accumulated during months of feeding in the rich Pacific Ocean. Meanwhile, he maintains a constant watch against young males attempting to challenge his dominance. Females arrive in waves, approaching the rocks to give birth to the pups conceived the previous year. Each female represents a potential mating opportunity, but also a responsibility. The male must protect not only his territory, but also the females and pups living in it from the aggression of other males and the constant threat of predators. Orcas patrol nearby waters with their characteristic black and white silhouettes, moving like ghosts beneath the surface. These intelligent predators well understand the predictable patterns in sea lion behavior and plan their attacks to coincide with moments of greatest vulnerability. The transition from water to land, or vice versa, creates opportunities that orcas have learned to exploit with lethal efficacy. The male's colossal size, which makes him fearsome in territorial disputes, also makes him prone to overheating on warm spring days. He must balance the need to maintain his position with keeping his body cool to survive. He fans himself with his hind flippers and positions his body to catch any available breeze, but his options are limited by the social constraints of colony life. Over time, the group's energy dynamics become more complex. Successful males can attract harems of 20 females or more, while less dominant ones are forced to retreat to the fringes or even the water, where they're more vulnerable to predation. The constant social tension, combined with the physical demands of territorial defense and mating, pushes these magnificent animals to the limit of their biological capacity. Yet, despite its apparent chaos, the colony functions under ancient rules evolved over millions of years. The rhythm of comings and goings, the patterns of territorial defense, and the complex negotiations between males and females contribute to maximizing reproductive success and minimizing energy expenditure for this extraordinary congregation. Meanwhile, high above the rookeries where sea lions gather, the mountains and valleys of the Alaskan interior offer their own spring spectacle. Here, on meadows still covered in snow but lit by newly sprouted wildflowers, the Dall sheep moves with the confidence of a species perfectly adapted to vertical terrain that would challenge even an expert climber. The ram, with his enormous curved horns identifying him as an adult male, traverses a cliff that drops to a valley hundreds of meters below. His hooves, hard as stone, yet capable of gripping the smallest ledges, carry him across terrain that seems to defy the laws of physics. Each step is made with mathematical precision, and his body automatically adjusts for balance and leverage, reflecting millions of years of evolutionary refinement. Spring brings both opportunities and challenges to the highlands where the Dall sheep dwells. The thaw reveals fresh grass and herbs that will nourish the herd to recover from winter privations. But it also makes the terrain more dangerous. Rockfalls caused by freeze-thaw cycles create risks that even these sure-footed animals must navigate carefully. Avalanche zones, frozen through winter, now become death traps where one wrong step can trigger a slide capable of burying an entire herd. The ram joins a group of bachelor males, animals that have spent the winter in a loose relationship, sharing the benefits of group vigilance and avoiding energy expenditure on territorial competition. Their relationship is complex, based on a hierarchy established through ritual combat during the previous autumn's rut. The size and curvature of each animal's horns provide an immediate visual indicator of age and dominant status, helping to minimize actual conflict at a time when energy conservation is crucial. These extraordinary horns, which can weigh up to 13 kilograms on an adult ram, are not just status symbols, but essential survival tools. In combat, rams back up and then charge forward at speeds of up to 32 kilometers per hour. Their skulls and horns clash with a sound like thunder that can be heard for kilometers. The force of these impacts would be fatal for most animals. But the Dall sheep has developed specially thickened skulls and shock-absorbing structures that allow them to survive collisions, generating force equivalent to a small car. As the group ascends the slope, they remain alert to predators that consider these peaks their hunting territory. Golden eagles glide overhead, their sharp sight searching for lambs that stray too far from the group's safety. Wolves, though they primarily live in the valleys, sometimes venture into the sheep's habitat, using their intelligence and pack coordination to attempt what lone predators cannot, pushing the sheep off the cliffs that are their final refuge. The ram's ability to detect danger goes beyond simple vigilance. His hearing is sensitive enough to distinguish between the sound of a falling stone and the step of a predator. His sense of smell can detect the presence of a wolf more than a kilometer away when conditions are favorable. And most importantly, his vision is among the sharpest in the animal kingdom, capable of detecting movement at distances imperceptible to a human observer. The terrain that defies climbers is quite simply home to these prodigious animals. They rest on ledges barely wide enough to hold their bodies, seemingly indifferent to precipices that would cause vertigo even in experienced mountaineers. They leap across crevices that appear impassable. Their powerful legs propel them through space with a grace that makes such feats look effortless. However, despite these remarkable adaptations to life on vertical terrain, the Dall sheep faces challenges that even its extraordinary skills cannot overcome. Climate change is altering the high mountain environment in ways that disrupt rules established over millennia. Early snowmelt changes the growth rhythm of vegetation, which can cause a mismatch between the timing of peak nutritional availability and the period when sheep need the highest quality food. Warmer temperatures allow vegetation to grow at higher altitudes. This can reduce the area of clear ground that sheep prefer and create corridors that facilitate predator access to their traditional habitat. The sun rises in the Alaskan sky. Its rays reflect off snowfields and granite peaks in a play of light and shadow that changes minute by minute. Spring in Alaska is a season of transitions, of opportunities seized and challenges overcome, of life forms expanding the limits of the possible in the eternal quest to survive and reproduce. In Alaska, summer does not arrive as a gentle warming, but as an explosion of life so intense it feels almost frantic. The sun, which was absent or barely present for months, now refuses to set. It creates a landscape bathed in eternal golden light that transforms the entire ecosystem into a 24-hour process of production, feeding, and reproduction. This is not just summer. It is the brief period in which Alaska reveals its true biological wealth. Rivers overflow with salmon returning from the ocean to spawn. Succulent shrubs bend under the weight of fruits that will feed countless animals during the winter. Cubs born with the awakening of spring grow at an astonishing rate as they prepare for their first challenge of winter survival. However, abundance comes with its own set of challenges. The very wealth of resources generates fierce competition. Predators converge on feeding zones where prey concentrate in unprecedented numbers. Constant daylight alters natural rhythms and behaviors. The short growing season means that every day, every hour, and every moment with favorable conditions must be exploited to the fullest. In the streams and rivers that meander through the Alaskan wilderness, one of nature's most extraordinary journeys reaches its climax, the Pacific salmon. After years in the ocean strengthening itself on marine nutrients, now returns exactly to the same stream where it was born. It is a feat of navigation that scientists still struggle to fully understand. The sockeye salmon, its body transformed from silver to bright red and its head to green, battles a current that would defy even a professional swimmer. Its flesh, once firm and fatty from ocean feeding, begins to decay as its body diverts all available resources toward reproduction. This is a journey without return, a final mission that will end in death but ensure the continuity of its genetic lineage. Every obstacle in the stream becomes a monumental challenge. The waterfalls the salmon must jump seem insurmountable, but the fish launches itself time and again. Its powerful tail propels it through the air, defying gravity. Many attempts fail, and the exhausted fish falls back into the current. But perseverance usually wins when brute force is not enough. The salmon's body undergoes drastic changes during this upstream journey. Its digestive system stops functioning completely. It will never eat again. Its jaws elongate and develop aggressive-looking hooks that it will use not for feeding, but to fight other males for the right to spawn. Its skin thickens and scales set deeper, creating a kind of armor for the battles ahead. In traditional spawning grounds used for thousands of years, the appearance of the salmon creates a spectacle of life and death that attracts predators from across the region. Grizzly bears wade into the streams, snatching fish out of the water with their colossal claws. Bald eagles perch in nearby trees, diving to capture salmon in shallow waters, or feeding on carcasses lying on the banks. The female, heavy with eggs, uses her tail to excavate a nest in the gravel bed of the stream. This nest, built carefully in areas with optimal flow and oxygen levels for embryonic development, represents the pinnacle of her life. The male, with his hooked jaw and humped back giving him an almost monstrous appearance, fights fiercely for the right to fertilize those eggs. The battles are brutal but brief, and the winner gets the chance to release clouds of sperm over the newly deposited eggs. In a few days, both the male and female will die, and their bodies will provide nutrients to the river ecosystem, contributing to the sustenance of the next generation. The death of the salmon is not an end, but a transformation. Its remains, rich in marine nutrients, will be dragged into the forest by bears and other scavengers, transporting nitrogen and phosphorus from the ocean into the heart of the land. Trees growing near salmon streams grow faster and reach larger sizes than those without access to these nutrients. The very forests that shade the streams depend on the salmon's final sacrifice for their growth and productivity. Eggs buried in the gravel endure the winter protected by ice and snow. Developing slowly in the dark months until spring triggers their emergence as fry. These tiny fish still carry the yolk sac that will nourish them in their first weeks of life. Some will survive to continue the cycle, but many will serve as food for other stream dwellers. Their sacrifice contributes to the complex web of relationships that defines Alaska's aquatic ecosystems. While salmon capture the attention of predators in the rivers, coastal waters offer their own summer spectacle. Here, where the Gulf of Alaska meets the North Pacific, humpback whales arrive after a journey of over 5,000 kilometers. They depart from tropical breeding grounds where they've spent months without rest or food. The whale, 13 meters long and weighing nearly 40 tons, moves through the water with a grace that seems to defy the laws of physics. Its enormous pectoral fins, the longest of any whale species, cut through the water as it begins to feed with the urgency caused by months of fasting. Its body weight has decreased considerably during the breeding season. Now it must make up for lost time in the short Alaskan summer, when food is abundant. The humpback whale's feeding technique is one of nature's most spectacular hunting strategies. Operating alone or in coordinated groups, the whales dive beneath schools of herring or krill and expel blasts of air while swimming in an upward spiral. This bubble net creates a cylindrical wall of bubbles that confuses and concentrates the prey. This allows them to be captured with ease. The pleats of the whale's throat, which are normally contracted like an accordion, expand drastically when it lunges upward through the center of the net. With its mouth wide open, thousands of liters of water and an infinity of small fish flood its oral cavity, which then closes. Meanwhile, the whale uses its gigantic tongue to expel the water through the baleen plates. The fish remain trapped behind the baleen, ready to be devoured in a mouthful that can contain several hundred kilograms of food. This strategy requires extreme temporal precision and coordination. This is especially true when several whales collaborate. The lead whale must calculate the depth and density of the prey school, while other members must synchronize their movements to maintain the integrity of the bubble net. The entire process, from the initial dive to the final lunge at the surface, can take only a few minutes, but it requires planning and execution that demonstrate exceptional intelligence and communication skills. The presence of whales in Alaskan waters has impacts that go beyond their own feeding success. Their colossal body serves as a platform for many smaller marine organisms, including barnacles that attach to their skin and feed on plankton. It consists of those complex sounds that can be heard for kilometers underwater. These songs, unique in each population and changing annually, serve functions that scientists are still trying to fully understand. They can be territorial signals, mating displays, or sophisticated forms of social communication that transmit information about food sources or dangers. The whale's ability to navigate across thousands of kilometers rivals human technology. By combining magnetic field perception and astronomical orientation, the humpback returns to the same feeding ground year after year, sometimes just a few hundred meters from previous season's locations. As summer progresses, the whale feeds almost continuously, consuming up to 1,300 kilograms of food a day. This massive consumption is necessary not only to recover lost physical condition, but to generate energy reserves for the coming year. The short Alaskan summer must provide enough resources to fuel a whole year of one of the most energy-demanding lifestyles in the animal kingdom. The whale's feeding success has a direct impact on the marine ecosystems of the North Pacific. By consuming large quantities of small fish and krill, humpbacks help control populations that could grow large enough to deplete their own sources of livelihood. Autumn arrives in Alaska like a master painter working with a palette of fire. The landscape transforms overnight, passing from summer green to vibrant patches of red, yellow, and orange that seem to glow with their own light. But this beauty carries a message of urgency. Winter is approaching, and every creature that wishes to survive must prepare for the coming test. The air grows crisper with the promise of frost. Every breath creates small clouds of vapor as reminders of what lurks ahead. The sun, which was high in the sky for months, now begins its descent toward the horizon. It recovers the rhythm of day and night that had disappeared in midsummer. The first snows cover the highest peaks, and day by day, advance down the slopes like a slow-motion white avalanche. They will eventually bury the entire landscape. This is the season of harvest, of fattening, of final preparations for the most difficult time of year. Plants rush to complete their reproductive cycles before the frost ends their growing season. Animals enter a feeding frenzy that will decide if they possess enough energy reserves to survive the months ahead. This urgency is felt in the air, a sense that time is running out and every opportunity must be taken. However, autumn is also a season of spectacular abundance. Succulent shrubs bend under the weight of fruit clusters that represent concentrated energy sources. Salmon migrations continue to offer protein-rich opportunities for any predator skilled enough to exploit them. The last heat of the year activates behaviors and migrations that create some of nature's most extraordinary spectacles. Deep in the vast forests of the Alaskan interior, where spruce and birch create a mosaic of green and gold, a female black bear moves with determination. Her massive body, which looked thin months ago, now carries the layers of fat that will sustain her through the winter. But her preparation is far from complete. The brief window of autumn opportunity demands continuous attention to survival. She stops before a service berry bush whose branches are laden with dark purple fruits. It is one of nature's most concentrated energy sources. Her keen sense of smell detects the perfect balance of sugars and nutrients that make these berries invaluable. With surprising delicacy for such a large animal, she uses her lips and tongue to pluck the fruits. She consumes hundreds of them in each feeding session. The bear's autumnal behavior is governed by a biological clock that measures the accumulation of the necessary fat reserves. She must increase by several hundred kilograms before retreating to her den. She turns her body into a living storage system that will provide energy for hibernation. If she is pregnant, this energy will also serve to nurse her cubs in the winter months when there is no food. Her feeding strategy demonstrates remarkable intelligence and memory. She moves between food sources following their ripening cycles. She coordinates her visits to maximize nutrient availability. Blueberry patches visited early on give way to cranberry wetlands as the season progresses. These are followed by rose hips and late elderberries that provide the last calories before the snow. But fruits are not her only source of food in autumn. She tears apart rotting logs to access larvae and insects. The high protein content of insects complements the carbohydrates from the fruits. Her powerful claws allow her to dig for roots and hunt ground squirrels. The squirrels are fat and nutritious thanks to their own autumn preparation. The bear's feeding activities have profound effects on the forest ecosystem. By moving between fruit patches, she unintentionally sows seeds over extensive areas. Her digestive system improves the germination capacity of many plants. Her excavations churn the soil and create opportunities for the growth of new plants. Even her winter shelter will eventually become a place where vegetation grows better. Preparing for hibernation consists of more than just accumulating fat reserves. She must also find or create a suitable den. It must be a place that remains isolated throughout the winter and provides sufficient ventilation. The choice of this site is one of the most important decisions she will make. A poorly chosen shelter can mean death by exposure or suffocation. The black bear embodies the essence of the autumn survival strategy. It is the transformation of seasonal abundance into the energy stores needed to survive scarcity. Her movements in the forest create disturbances that trigger responses throughout the ecosystem. Scavengers follow her at a safe distance with the hope of taking advantage of any remains. The cycle of life in Alaska continues its relentless rhythm toward winter. While the black bear concentrates on terrestrial resources, coastal waters offer their own autumn spectacle. Here, where the mixing of currents creates rich marine environments, orcas move through waters teeming with prey. The pod of orcas is composed of a leader who's the oldest female and her multi-generational family. It exhibits hunting strategies transmitted from generation to generation and perfected over decades. These apex predators represent one of the most intelligent and adaptable hunting forces in the ocean. The matriarch, over 60 years old, guides her family through waters where salmon migrations create unique opportunities. Their echolocation capability is more sophisticated than any man-made sonar system. It allows them to locate schools of fish kilometers away and track their movements with near supernatural precision. The pod's hunting strategy reflects both individual skill and group coordination. Different family members perform specific roles to corral prey into compact groups. Orcas communicate continuously during the hunt using a complex vocabulary of clicks, whistles, and calls. They coordinate their movements with absolute precision. One technique used by this group is cooperative wave washing. Several orcas work together to create waves that sweep seals or sea lions off ice floes. This behavior requires temporal precision and coordination. It also demands an understanding of physics that allows them to predict how their movements will affect water dynamics. Returning salmon provide high-energy food. They help whales accumulate fat reserves for the scarcer winter months. However, orcas are opportunistic hunters, and their intelligence allows them to take advantage of any available prey. They can hunt seals, sea lions, small dolphins, or even other whale species. They adjust their strategy to the specific challenges posed by each type of prey. The pod's social structure brings advantages beyond cooperative hunting. Elder females act as repositories of ecological knowledge. They can make the difference between life and death for younger members. They remember where and when food is likely to be found. They know how to navigate dangerous areas and how to react to unusual environmental conditions. The orca's brain is the foundation for cognitive abilities such as self-awareness and problem-solving. Each pod develops its own family dialect. These unique sounds help maintain group cohesion even when individuals are separated. Autumn preparation also extends to the highest peaks of Alaska. There, the mountain goat moves across vertical and dangerous terrain. Over the cliffs, these animals show extraordinary adaptations for life in the vertical world. The mountain goat possesses a radiant white coat that has already begun to thicken. It moves across the crag with movements so precise they seem to defy gravity. Its hooves are specially structured to adhere to the smallest ledges. They provide a grip that no other large mammal possesses. Each step is performed with mathematical precision. The animal's body automatically calculates angles, forces, and balance points. Autumn brings unique challenges to the highlands. The first snows can arrive suddenly, covering footholds with layers of slippery ice. Sudden temperature changes can trigger rockfalls that threaten these climbers. The same extreme conditions also bring nutritional opportunities. The mountain goat's autumn feeding focuses on energy-rich plants. Alpine grasses now provide optimal nutrition levels to survive the winter. Its specialized digestive system allows it to thrive on fibrous plant matter. This vegetation would provide insufficient sustenance for most other large mammals. From the oceanic abysses where orcas hunt to the highest peaks, where the mountain goat defies gravity, every corner harbors life forms that transform seasonal abundance into energy reserves. For thousands of years, Alaska's wildlife existed under natural laws of abundance and scarcity. Indigenous peoples lived as part of these cycles, taking what they needed and understanding their role in the ecosystem. Their impact remained within the limits of natural sustainability. The arrival of European and American settlers in the 18th and 19th centuries marked a fundamental change. What followed was not integration, but exploitation on a scale the ecosystem had never experienced. Commercial hunting and fishing activities extracted resources with an intensity that quickly surpassed natural systems. The discovery of gold in Alaska triggered a new wave of environmental disruption. Mining activities contaminated streams and rivers with mercury and other toxic substances that persist to this day. Placer mining left scars on the landscape that are still visible from space more than a century later. Modern industrial development has brought challenges that far exceed the impacts of previous exploitation. Climate change is altering environmental conditions to which fauna has adapted for millions of years. The warming that has occurred in Alaska over the last 50 years is double the global average. Changes are so rapid that many species cannot adapt at the speed necessary to survive. Ocean acidification is altering marine ecosystems in ways that affect the entire food web. Shell-building organisms find it increasingly difficult to build their protective cover in more acidic waters. The collapse of these fundamental species propagates through the food web, affecting fish, birds, and marine mammals. Global warming is also altering the synchronization of natural events, creating mismatches between species and their food sources. Plants sprout earlier, but the insects that depend on them might not be present. Caribou migrations may arrive too early or too late as the seasons change. These biological mismatches can have devastating impacts on wildlife populations. They have evolved depending on a precise schedule for their survival and reproduction. Alaska has always given humans the feeling of being before an indomitable world. Frozen mountain ranges, endless spruce forests, and rivers stained red with salmon form one of the grandest wilderness areas. But even this land that seemed eternal is changing. Alaska and the entire Arctic are warming faster than most other regions on Earth. Winter is shorter, sea ice forms later, and permafrost is softening and collapsing. In 2025, winter sea ice in the Arctic recorded one of its lowest maximums in 47 years of observation. For Alaska, this is the displacement of the entire living world. With the retreat of sea ice, polar bears must swim further to hunt seals. When snow melts earlier, caribou can lose sync with the season of nutritious sprouts. Warming affects the tiny organisms at the base of the food chain, dragging the entire ecosystem along. The story of Alaska is not only one of loss. Across this vast land, humans are cooperating to protect what can still be saved. Scientists monitor ice, salmon, and the ocean. Indigenous communities share traditional knowledge accumulated over thousands of years of coexisting with nature. Park rangers and conservation organizations seek ways to help Alaska adapt to a changing future. One of the pillars of conservation is the Anilka Act of 1980. This law set aside more than 100 million acres of federal land for new conservation units. Thanks to this, grizzly bears still have salmon rivers, and grey wolves retain tundras to hunt. In salmon streams, restoration projects are removing old culverts that blocked fish passage. When water flow is reconnected, salmon can travel further to reproduce. When salmon return, it is not just one species of fish being saved. The entire forest, bears, eagles, wolves, and the ocean benefit from a healthier river. In Alaska, salmon is the current of energy that links the sea with the land. Dying after spawning, their bodies nourish the soil, and the soil feeds the trees. Alaska is a gigantic natural laboratory where scientists study Arctic ecology and migrations. That is why it is mentioned in topics such as wildlife conservation, marine biology, and biodiversity protection. To understand Alaska is to understand how the Earth works. To understand the salmon is to understand how the ocean feeds the forest. To understand the grey wolf is to understand the role of the predator in ecological balance. To protect Alaska is to allow rivers to flow free and the old-growth forest to remain standing. When the aurora shines again and the wolf's howl fades away, Alaska will continue telling its story. If you love the wild beauty of Alaska, start with small actions like reducing waste and respecting natural habitats. If you have enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate notifications. Leave us a comment indicating which Alaskan animal impressed you the most. Each interaction helps nature content reach more people. Alaska remains there, majestic and fragile. Today, more than ever, it needs humans to choose to be on the side of life.